The following are some thoughts about dying, something that we can all relate to. Dying is not a subject most of us enjoy thinking about. Because of this, we may have missed one of the great weaknesses in the theory of evolution, which really does bear thinking about. You see, evolution is based on the premise that organised, complex creatures can evolve from disorganised, chaotic matter, given enough time. It promotes the idea that incremental change can produce beneficial outcomes, and that repeated often enough, life forms can become highly complex and well suited to their environments, which of course also had to evolve. Not only is this the reverse of what the second law of thermodynamics teaches, that is, all systems tend to chaos and disorder unless work is done on them. It produces a valid question. If matter, having overcome known laws to the contrary, and against any mathematical measurable concept of chance, can become organised, then living, then conscious, why do we and all other life forms die? Evolutionists stumble for answers to this question. Whilst it is not an amusing subject, some of the theories propounded for the existence of death amount to tautology. Quoting one take on this concept from Wikipedia, it states, "Inquiry into the evolution of aging aims to explain why survival, reproductive successes, and functioning of all living organisms decline at old age. Leading hypotheses suggest that a combination of limited resources and environmental causes determine an optimal level of repair regarding molecule and cellular level damage that accumulates over time." End quote. The theories continue into the realm of death being a built-in design of evolution. In other words, not only did life have to evolve, but death had to evolve as well. Scientists then attach a beneficial aspect to the death in the process of evolution. Death evolved to serve a purpose of ridding the gene pool of imperfections. Notice that all the arguments require belief in unimaginable odds. But even worse, a notion of intelligence and purpose. Evolution is a nameless God which not only creates life, but destroys it. Evolutionists may also claim that death is the normal state, life is the exception. This is a barren concept also. Inanimate materials in and of themselves do not constitute death. Death is the actual corruption of life. Life must form by some means and must be corrupted by other means to die. For those who read the Bible and accept its message, we know that death was the sentence passed upon Adam in his very good state. He became mortal. He would not die immediately, but a process was set in place in his body which would lead him to age. And finally, death. There are many potential ways in which bodies can age, including disease processes. However, the most basic of all reasons that we die is that every single cell in our body has a programmed length of life. Cells are continually being replaced in the body through mitosis as they wear out. However, a vital feature of the cell is changed each time it is replaced. The replacement cell has shortened telomeres, which are on the ends of the chromosomes of the cell, Each time the cell is replaced, the telomeres shorten further. This means that there is a critical number of replacements beyond which it becomes impossible for the cell to function. The operation of the chromosomes is essential to continue cellular life. The average number of times a human cell can divide and still work effectively is between 50 and 70 times. The limit on the number of cell reproductions in human beings is called the Hayflick limit. In the growing infant, the cell goes through a state of rapid proliferation known as luxuriant growth. As the telomeres shorten, the cell enters a stage called senescence, in which replacement slows and finally stops. It really does not matter if a housefly lives for 28 days or a Galapagos tortoise lives for 150 years. They will die because the programming in their bodies has an equivalent limit in every cell. It is possible to see that this may have been the method by which our Almighty God set in process the act of aging. We can assume that prior to the fall, Adam and Eve, being in a very good state, had no limit on the number of times their body cells would be able to replace themselves. After the fall, it is also possible to see that God may have set a limit on the number of cell reproductions, which would cause old age and eventually death. These limits were more generous before the flood than after. For a long time now, the Word of God has stated that the average age of a man is about 70 years. Modern medicine may patch up this for a little longer, but it cannot do anything about the fact that every single cell in our bodies is pre-programmed to die. We are born programmed to die. If we think the origin of life is explained by an evolutionist is fanciful enough, then reading variations on the theme of the origin of death is even more perplexing. An intelligent look at the subject tells us that somebody, our great creator, programmed ourselves to have an age limit. This makes absolute sense in terms of the gospel and the hope of salvation God offers to those who accept his terms. All others will simply pass off the scene as their bodies age and the limit is reached on how long their depleted body cells will continue to work. When we think of death, therefore, we can actually take heart that it is a very good reassurance that our bodies were actually created, not by an unseen evolutionary force which just happened to get it right, but by a God, a loving God who has a purpose to fill the earth with his glory as the waters cover the sea. Thank you for listening.